Mercury's back in Virgo, and Mercury is direct. But while Mercury was in Virgo, I forgot to tell you that some of my favorite comedians have Mercury retrograde in Virgo. One of them is Michael Keaton, who played Beetlejuice, like the old one. I was listening to a podcast about blockchain, and even though the podcast is supposed to be talking about crypto, but that's just like the poster child for blockchain. And they were talking about a governance attack. So in a decentralized autonomous organization, there was like an attack, and they even talked about whether or not to call it an attack, but they're calling it an attack, where they undermined the voting system and got enough votes to like take over the org. Two things were interesting to me in this. In one part, they called decentralized autonomous organization a democratic inspired system. So blockchain is going to be used until AI makes the world go away. Blockchain is going to be used to fix the voting system. It's not necessarily a better system, but it's definitely efficient and exact. Anyway, so it's a democratic inspired system, blockchain voting. Also, they talked about, so this attack occurred when a lot of voting members were asleep. And they talked about the idea of voter fatigue, how like many things to vote on were set up so that there are so many irrelevant things to vote on. It's not practical for people to vote on every single thing. So they're calling this voter fatigue. We'll have radical democracy. You're going to get to vote on every single thing, but that will be impractical. And I think that term voter fatigue is going to come up. So then you'll vote on an AI model that votes for you, and that's real. OpenAI is considering like monthly subscription prices as high as $2,000 a month. And this is because of the computing power required by some of the more advanced models. But it's got me thinking about things that I can't verbalize very well right now about paying to be smart, or I don't know, you've always had to pay to have more leisure time. But what about when I think wealth has always allowed people to have more logistical freedom to be more intelligent. I don't know, I made a note to talk about paying to be smart, but I don't really think it sounds very smart right now. Or like affluence granting you access to intelligence, I think has always been a thing. We definitely have. Anyway, someone in the comments said if it can replace one employee, then $2,000 a month is actually really reasonable. This article on Slashdot was posted as a question: is the tech world now central to foreign policy? Yes. That's what I've been saying. The tech world is now central to all policy because the tech world is your new government. Tech business governs the world. Tech business has a more powerful ability to govern than governments. This article talks about the changing information environment and how the government has set up a Bureau of Cyberspace and Digital Policy and how they're training cybersecurity experts. This article doesn't mention blockchain, which is weird because they're building 10-lane freeways. I was listening to a podcast where someone who is a total blockchain nut, not a nut as in like off their rocker, but just like super into blockchain, crypto specifically, saying like, we're building these 10-lane blockchain freeways and there's no application layer, which I've mentioned before on the show. And they're like in awe of it, but like it's for a reason. And if the Secretary of State isn't aware of that, it's weird that the Secretary of State in the government isn't talking about it, and that blockchain is just framed as a fringe technology. That's weird. I think that's weird. So the New York Times did this. If you go, there's an article on the New York Times website that's like a scrolly TikTok embedded post thing to indoctrinate you into their point of view. I wonder how long we have until the New York Times says that about the meat space. To be fair, the article says that the Telegram allows this type of criminal organization at scale, but everything else in the world is at scale. So crime's going to be at scale. You're not going to eliminate it completely. I understand why it needs to be talked about, but I know we need to talk about it so that the conversation can somehow influence the legal precedents moving forward. I feel like my news desk is maybe not the place to talk about it because I think before this we had the Silk Road. You're always going to have the black market. If you think you can eliminate the black market through the tools that they use, that sounds naive to me. There's a quote from the article that's pretty rich, given that tech companies are your new government. It says, operating like a stateless organization, Telegram has long behaved as if it were above the law. And it also says that, quote, in many democratic countries, patience with the app is wearing thin. So that's an interesting form of misdirection, being like, look, this operates above the law, when the biggest of tech companies are the law. Accounting firm PwC is going to start tracking its workers' locations to make sure that they're not quiet vacationing, and to make sure that they're in the office a minimum of 3 days a week. So they went from, you must be in the office 2 to 3 days a week, and now it's, you must be in the office 3 days a week, and we're tracking your location. And I don't think this could have happened, like workers, this time of workers getting their locations tracked, without everything in the past 5 years having happened. Because what I've said in previous episodes is that if you want to initiate a totalitarian paradigm, what you do is you turn it way past 11 first. And then when everybody complains, you turn it down to a much more reasonable 8. But if you had flipped the switch to 8 volume from 3 or 4, nobody would put up with it. So workers being tracked, locations being tracked. If you want to be a worker, this is what you're going to have to consent to. So somewhat related, the Bluetooth upgrade is saying that precision tracking has been increased. And in the little write-up that I saw, it was like potentially improving your Find My functionality. So it's weird they had to throw that in, because in my opinion, the most useless. You just play a sound to find your thing. I guess if you're in that movie, A Quiet Place, you need more precision Bluetooth tracking. But it's interesting that it talked about that and no other creepier use cases. This hooks into my discussion, it's 2 or 3 weeks ago, about the precision tracking company that wants to buy more of the small section of bandwidth used by things like baby monitors and garage door openers and Meshtastic, which is a rogue open source communication technology. You can set up a local communication network in case the internet goes down or something. Anyway, there's a company that their thing is more precision tracking using this section of radio bandwidth. So the tracking is coming at you from all sides, and it's going to be logged on blockchain, because blockchain is how you train LLMs, and they're running out of data. Anyway, go watch that episode. I'll try to remember to link it here, but it's 2 or 3 weeks ago. A company called Altera. Okay, fine. You did a newsworthy thing, and now I'm a free advertisement for you. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I would love a free advertisement for me. I guess I gotta do something newsworthy. Anyway, this company, Note AI neuroscientists. I talked about this in my managed wellness video, which you should go watch. So these are 1,000 autonomous AI agents in Minecraft. So it's like The Sims. And I'm gonna try to play this, just the first part of this video.
I'm Robert. I'm excited to introduce Project Sep, the first ever agent civilization. 1,000 agents collaborating for days, performing any action with emergent government, economy, culture, religion, and more. Sep starts in Minecraft, but we are already going beyond.
This is a Minecraft server, but every player here is actually an autonomous AI agent. And they're completely Minecraft agnostic, capable of using other apps and games. Our agents started with nothing and then worked together to collect over 300 items in Minecraft. They set up a market where agents agreed to use gems as a common currency for trading supplies, building an economy. In this case, you might think the merchants would trade the most, but it was actually the priest. Why? He was bribing townsfolk to convert. We run these worlds every day, and they're always different. Here are 3 of some of our favorite moments.
I don't really have anything else to say about that. It's not bad. It's very interesting. Just wanted to let you know that was happening. So there's a news story saying the underground world of black market AI chat box. You can read the headline. The underground world of black market AI chat bots is thriving. So this in the same week that we have a Telegram article from the New York Times being like, it's a black market. You're always going to have a black market. But I don't know what the answer is. If you can do something about some percentage of it, you have to. Anyway, I'd like to read to you a quote from Duncan Trussell from his conversation with Eric Weinstein. This is a quote, I initially was very frustrated with ChatGPT because of it being nerfed. But then I got to hang out with an unnerfed LLM and I got it right away. It's like, oh, this is why they have to put guardrails on this thing. Oh my God, it will write a poem for you about how to make meth. Remember, blockchain is how you train or tokenization is how you train LLMs. Sam Altman has a blockchain project about being a peoplenaire, and there's a slide about that in my managed wellness video, and an AI company. And it's ostensibly about taking care of people because of what he's created, but the blockchain project is very helpful to the development of AI. Anyway, I don't really want to organize around hatred of technology on this channel, especially with the world getting so gnarly in the coming years. If Pluto in Aquarius if Pluto in Capricorn 2008 through now was institutions, like established power structures, both getting more powerful and crumbling from their overreach. So Pluto in Aquarius, which is now, or like 2023 through 2044, that's the collective general populations, both getting more powerful as mob rule and as AI, because AI is the collective with it built out of a tech infrastructure. The collective and general populations both getting more powerful and being eliminated. Monday, that's right now. Early morning, the moon pings outer planets. If you wake up early, you might do some long-term or broad conceptual planning or work along those lines, or thinking if you don't have anything to do. Or maybe you're jolted out of bed early, or you might get something unexpected early in the morning. Whatever that is, it's followed by an anesthetic, calming quality. And then all of that excitement could end up feeling mildly empowering in a way that's maybe like back to the old ways. Like, you know how to do this. Mid-morning / early afternoon, the moon moves into Sagittarius, where there's considerably more levity, but the moon also instantly squares Mercury. So a need for discovery, or even just a need to get out and stretch your legs, might feel somehow stressed or otherwise encumbered by having to follow the instructions or communicate clearly or get something from point A to point B. Most of Monday is just the moon in Sagittarius applying to a sextile with Venus in Libra. So a lot of the day has the potential to go smoothly. And the South Node is still with Venus in Libra, although she's now separating from it. But the theme of the ease of most of Monday could be around letting go. Tuesday is still pretty nice because of that sextile with Venus going exact. But most of the day contains what I'm calling a constructive heaviness. It might feel heavier, even though whatever's feeling heavy isn't all that like burdensome. Maybe it is. But it also has a sense of heaviness because the moon wants to be so light and buoyant in Sagittarius. That's what a square is. It's like these sensibilities don't really flow well together. Excuse me. I'm calling it constructive because both the moon and Saturn are ruled by Jupiter in this square on Tuesday, and the moon is applying to Jupiter. So since everybody's in axial alignment, it's like daddy's home, but daddy's got too much going on. It's Jupiter and Gemini. I mean, Saturn would technically be daddy, but what I'm saying is something or someone's probably going to rain on your parade on Tuesday, but that might turn out to be a relief. Sometimes we have to say no to things that we'd really like to do in order to make good on other commitments. The moon's opposition with Jupiter closes out Tuesday, and the moon is now officially in the second quarter. So we have an overall feeling of energy building. And there's a potential for Tuesday to end rather triumphantly if you attend to the stuff you're responsible for. And the feeling of energy building could be like positive for the most part, as long as there's no dereliction of duty. Much of the day on Wednesday has a meandering quality that's not great for being direct. It's better for exploration, where there's no chance of getting lost, or exploration in a place where it's safe to get lost, whether that's physical or all in your head. And remember, cultist Lon Duquette said, yes, magic is all in your head, but your head is much bigger than you think it is. Count on the immediate situation being more extensive and vague than you initially bargained for on Wednesday. If you can understand that, that's how you'll know how to make the best of Wednesday. Also on Wednesday, Mercury moves out of shadow. So that means that Mercury has moved out of the degrees which it transited retrograde through back in August. So this wraps up the most recent Mercury retrograde. And if you haven't been following along and you want to know what just happened, you can get some context for the past month and a half by watching my Mercury retrograde video, which is a few downloads back. But also it should still be linked below. Or you can find it in my Mercury retrograde playlist. And each of the videos in that playlist begins with something about Mercury retrogrades in general. So if you want to get a sense of like, what is a Mercury retrograde? Why does everyone talk about it? What's supposed to be happening? Why does everyone blame everything going wrong on it? You can watch the beginnings of my Mercury retrograde videos and you'll start to build an understanding of what that means. Mercury retrograde happens 3 times a year, and the next time, so we're out of the woods for now, and the next time Mercury stations retrograde will be November 25th, 2024. In Sagittarius. So Thanksgiving in the US should be interesting. Wednesday night, the moon moves into Capricorn, so it gets a little more serious and more practical. It's less airy-fairy because Wednesday was a little airy-fairy. It's like someone throws a glass of cold water in your face. And our second Mars-Mercury sextile could have something to do with like a rude awakening that turns out to be helpful. Thanks, I needed that. And this is another last vestige of the Mercury retrograde. Although Mercury is out of shadow, back August 23rd, Mercury made a sextile with Mars, except it was Mercury in Leo, retrograde, making a sextile with Mars in Gemini. And now this is Mercury direct in Virgo, so Mercury functioning very well, making a sextile with Mars in Cancer. So it's a little bit more dramatic and volatile and more calm and grounded in other ways. Like, I'm not sure it's like worse because of the fall in Mars, because Mercury is exalted in Virgo. But think about like back on August 23rd versus now, there's an overall theme going on that on August 23rd felt a lot more frantic. And now this is a lot more like grounded and material, maybe emotional material. And it might be like slightly different areas of life. Some of the same areas of life, but moving into involving other parts of your story. All day long on Wednesday, the sun is applying to its opening square with Jupiter. And this will be more important if you were born with a lot of Pisces or Sagittarius, or if you're in a Jupiter-ruled year. Think back to May 18th. The sun conjoined Jupiter back on May 18th. And this is the beginning of a new Jupiter Synodic cycle, which means Jupiter's relationship with the sun. And I talk a lot about that cycle in my video from that week, which I think is the video or the week of May 13th. I think it's called Best Week Ever. Oh, sorry, I just realized some things about my life. I'll also try to remember to link it, but again, it's my weekly report from May 13th. I'm suggesting you watch that because I talk a lot about the Jupiter cycle, like the overall yearly cycle of the sun and Jupiter and what that means. Anyway, Jupiter stations retrograde soon on October 9th. So we're entering a phase of making good on opportunities for advancement that were presented throughout the summer. I think of this opening square of the sun in Virgo and Jupiter in Gemini. Make it make sense. That's how it feels. And it's tinged with some irritability because the moon fallen in Capricorn is adding some extra drama to the end of Wednesday when it opposes Mars in Cancer. So the moon in Capricorn can deny that it even has feelings because in the past it may not have been okay to have feelings, or it might have been like a life and death scenario where having feelings means like failure to obtain what's necessary to survive. And then Mars in Cancer is opposite, very butthurt, very volatile. That could be painful. It could be frustrating. Moon in Cancer is like ruining Moon in Capricorn's workflow. Like it's not okay to experience such feelings. Moon in Capricorn is not acknowledging Mars in Cancer's emotional groundswell, eruption. And that's very frustrating. It's frustrating not to be heard or seen. That could get ugly, but it could be way worse. If you appeal to reason, that could work. It's a Mercury-Mars sextile, and the moon is trining Mercury as it opposes. It's like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire when you phone a friend. So I'm suggesting phone a friend. Get some support on the rational, informational side of things. You could potentially avoid unnecessary drama by just demanding to go to bed on Wednesday night. Go to bed early. And I'll tell you why in a minute. So that potential drama leads to Thursday. Most of Thursday is simple on its own. If you just go to bed. Don't bring it. Try to bring as little with you on Thursday as you can. Pack light for Thursday. If you have an agenda, you should be able to execute it the moon in Capricorn, sextile Saturn in Pisces. So this is your day to get a lot done. I know Saturn is with Neptune, but your day to get a lot done this week is Thursday. And you might do it at the expense of a hot date or something, because there's an invitation here to really go ham on getting things done so you can have a little fun Thursday night and even Friday. The Thursday night fun just doesn't necessarily flow with ease. You're going to have like decision to make. And to have the fun on Thursday night will require probably like a little extra initiative. Like you really got to push to get your work done. But you could also choose to just get it done and save the fun for Friday. So that's why I'm saying try to get a good night's sleep Wednesday night into Thursday, because the fun of staying up all night to write your novel instead of going out Friday has that same feeling of energy building. So you're taking care of business. But if you want to maybe do things a little differently, that might be beneficial because the moon is applying to a trine with Uranus all day. It's the moon in Capricorn trining Uranus in Taurus. So maybe you do something a little different around food, or you do something makes like your work you need to get done pleasurable somehow, or allow some errant pleasure into your life. Or maybe you have a weird epiphany about money or supplies, charcuterie board supplies, or maybe you just take off early to do something fun. And see, you're able to do this if you really leveraged Thursday as your day to get things done. And if you went to bed early on Wednesday, didn't burn yourself out in a shouting match or some sort of like more passive aggressive energetic conflict. Be a little careful on Friday with the having fun times. It's not that dangerous, but the moon makes a sextile with Neptune late Friday night. So Neptune could be like drugs or alcohol or other activities through which excess could lead you astray. It's a sextile, so it's not that dangerous, but I'm bringing it up. I'm advising a little caution, because if some revelry goes a little too off the rails, even just slightly, if you just go overboard slightly, the moon's late night conjunction with Pluto in Capricorn could come back to haunt you immediately. Or like an old behavior or theme that you thought you had worked through comes back to haunt you. With Pluto back in Capricorn one last time, we have one last stint of it for the next 250 years. So I'm going to use the word haunt a lot. Saturday is totally different. When you wake up, the moon will already be in Aquarius. The moon arrives at Aquarius early. So all day long, it's just the moon in Aquarius, applying to a trine with Venus in Libra. And Venus in Libra is applying to a trine with Jupiter in Gemini. So as long as you didn't kick up too much dust on Friday, you could have a calm, fun, weird Saturday. Technology and discovery. I think of it as like you're getting a tour. Willy Wonka is giving you a tour in the glass elevator. And a little of that flows into the first part of Sunday with the moon applying to a trine with Venus. So enjoy that peace and beauty and leave room for a lot of the rest of the day, like afternoon, for the element of surprise. This time it's not necessarily as easygoing as it was on Friday. Whatever's on your agenda for next week is probably way more important than you could ever imagine. And remember, the eclipse chooses you, and your Wi-Fi is a camera that can see through walls.